And at the last workshop, there was this thing about sort of milking being in that vortex, in this pure positive energy as much as possible.
Well, we talk about that. Once you know you're there, milk it.
Yeah.
But if you're here and you milk it,
well,
in other words, if you've got some of all of it going on, and that's you may have seen that with some of the people if you were at a recent gathering,
yes,
where their vibration is all over the place, and they want a conversation about it, and we say, sharpen yourself into alignment with who you are, and we'll rampage with you, but don't ask us to rampage if you're not sharp in the vicinity of who you really are, because it backfires every single time.
Yeah. Well, just having an active mind and sort of an interest in life and excitement, there's so much. An
active mind, but wait. We feel an excuse coming on that won't serve you. Let's just add to this.
Yeah.
I have an active mind that is focused chronically upon things that will please me when they manifest. I use my active mind to activate a vibration. You see, your mind is always active. Your mind is always active. Yeah, and most people are sort of all over the board. That's why they get so much variety in their life experience. If you want to sharpen the number of wonderful things that come, you have to talk more about those wonderful things. Yeah. So now go where you're going, because it's a good place.
Yeah, well, it's just that there's so much sort of practicing milking the other end of it. You know what I mean? And it's sort of rewarding to the intellect.
Well,
to if you like conspiracy theories, you can go and there's so much there. But like when I noticed, that's what I was mentioning, that sort of milking being in that highest vibration we can get to, it was a little bit of a challenge to sort of keep it going and not sort of get too
here's the way
boring
we would play.
or vague.
Here's the way we would play this. So we like this analogy that we've just offered you with this broad spectrum of vibrational possibilities and really manifestational possibilities. The people you're going to run into today are somewhere in this spectrum. So let's say that you have been thinking about things wanted and unwanted, and so there's a lot of active stuff in your vibration all over the place. So and an idea comes to you about something that you intellectually and emotionally know is not in your best interest, but still it's calling you because it's active. You sort of have an addiction to it, even though intellectually you don't want it, emotionally you don't want it, it's still calling you. So we would say, oh, I don't have to think about you now, or I'll think about this later, Gator. I'll do this later. I don't have to make this decision right now. In other words, we would do everything we could to diffuse it. And we want to say we wouldn't give in to it. We wouldn't give in to it just because it's easier. This is where we would use our determination and our focus and our knowledge of who we really are. And so the way Esther does that, she asks herself, I wonder what Abraham thinks about that. I wonder what Abraham thinks about that. And because her Abraham vibration is so active within her, she just barely has to think. I wonder what Abraham would think about that. And she moves closer into the vicinity of what Abraham is. But if you say, I wonder what other conspirators think about that, I wonder how bad this can go, I wonder how awful this really is, then there's a whole stream of that too. So it really comes down to how you want to feel. And we think what you're grappling with, and Esther does it too sometimes, is trying to discern the difference between interest and interest in a subject and something that's really in your best interest. And really, the only way you're going to know that for sure is to play it out. And there's no harm in playing it out. Do you ever see a movie, you hear about it, you know enough about it, and you make the decision to go see it, and halfway through you realize that you knew before you got there that it wasn't going to be an uplifting experience for you? In other words, this is what life experience is about. You get to offer a vibration, you get to attract an experience, and you get to evaluate the experience that you've attracted so that you can launch rockets of improvement into your vortex. We are just suggesting that when you have an unpleasant experience and you launch the vortex you launch the rocket of desire into your vortex, that it really isn't prudent to go back and have another experience like that. In other words, at some point, don't you want to reap the benefit of what you've put into your vortex? That's really what you want to ask yourself is it interesting because it's active in my vibration, or am I being called to it because it matches who I really am and what I really want? And that's a distinction that we know that you can make every single time. You're going to like this. Because you are genius creators, and because you've come to create with the power of your focus, you would rather have a negative thought than no thought. You'd rather have a negative experience. You'd rather have negative emotion than no emotion, because emotion makes you know you're alive. When you focus upon what you don't want, you launch a rocket, and there's a lot going on that at least you're alive. You're not bored, you see. So you will always choose negative emotion over no emotion, but that's not the spectrum. You've got positive emotions to choose from too. So you can't get it wrong, and you never get it done. So just don't be afraid to get out there and play in it. In other words, this is what this is all about. You're fine-tuning yourself into increasingly better vibrational stance so that you can receive more of what you are really wanting. You're never going to be in a place where... So here's this spectrum of emotions, and let's say they go all the way from agony and defeat all the way to ecstasy and joy. And let's say you got a little bit of all of it active, so you get a little, and because you've got some of the unwanted active, it mutes the wanted, and because you've got some of the wanted active, it mutes the not. And so your spectrum is not as dramatic as we have expressed it here, but you've got a pretty broad spectrum of vibrational possibilities, emotional possibilities, and manifestational possibilities. So you just begin tuning yourself by wanting to feel better and wanting to feel better and wanting to feel better. What begins to happen is you narrow the range of probabilities. So now your contrast, instead of being from here to here, from really unwanted to really wanted, is from sort of unwanted to really wanted, or from wanted but not as much to really wanted. In other words, there's contrast within wherever you stand, and there's enough contrast within this love, joy, appreciation to keep you launching more and launching more and launching more and launching more. That was significant. Did you hear it? You don't have to have agony and awful things in your life in order to put things in your vortex. You can't stop putting new and improved in your vortex. So life getting better and better and better and better is going to keep happening from wherever you are. Did you get that? You can live happily ever after, but you're not going to ever get to the place where you no longer ask. And that's the thing that's so interesting. When people who don't have what they want are watching people who have everything that the people who don't have what they want. In other words, the people who have what the people who don't have it, the people who don't have it think that the people who have it must have everything that they want. But that is never true, because the game keeps playing. There's always more to want. No matter where you stand, you're going to just keep parlaying it into more and more and more. That's why you cannot let what others think about you influence your standards for what you set for yourself, because they're not even playing in your game, you see. So there is, we might as well just tell you, it's time for you to know this. There is substance and truth to conspiracy theory. The entire universe is conspiring to give you everything that you want.
Thank you.
We're going to thread the needle here. Back. Stand if not there. Stand if you think it's yes.